Good evening, Zimbabweans. My name is Linda Masarira, the aspiring MP for Harare Central. I am running as an independent candidate in the 2018 harmonized election. I'm a pro-democracy activist, socio-economic and political rights activist, and today we start the edition of Politically Incorrect with Linda. People were asking me today, why did you decide to come up with the topic politically incorrect? I must say that Zimbabweans do not know what political correctness is. And is there something called political correctness? If it is there, what does it mean to be politically correct? We have gone for 38 years under leaders who don't even care about the development of our country, who do not care about sustainable human development, who practically ran down our economy, and today they have turned into saviors. So the biggest question that I'm asking today is, what is political correctness? Is there any politician who is politically correct? What is the difference between an activist and a politician? And these are the critical issues that we're supposed to be interrogating as we go into the 2018 elections. Firstly, I would like to say, an activist is a person that champions for political, social, and economic change. And a politician is the one who determines who gets what, where, when, and how. How have we been selecting our politicians in Zimbabwe? How have we been selecting candidates who run for political office? Have we, as the electorate, been playing an active role in that, in the selection of candidates? Have we voted wisely in the past? Do we want to continue voting for the wrong people in the name of voting for a certain political party when we do not even know the capacity of the candidate that we're voting for? I think those are the critical things that we're supposed to be analyzing as we go into the 2018 elections. How did we get where we are in Zimbabwe right now? We are here where we are facing economic quagmire, where most Zimbabweans are living on less than 35 US cents a day, where we've got perennial water shortages in all the cities in Harare, where we also have a lot of people who are jobless, helpless, and hopeless. How did we get to a stage where we've got no money in our banks? How did we get to a stage where banks just close and we don't get our monies? How did we get to a stage where Zimbabwe at once had all shops with nothing and no money in this country? We got to that stage because we all did not play an active role in demanding accountability from the people we voted into office. And now when we start talking about being politically incorrect, we are saying we have to breed a culture of political incorrectness to correct the politics in this land. Zimbabweans have tried to divorce themselves from politics. You can never divorce yourself from politics because it affects your day-to-day life, it affects what you eat, where you work, what you do. It just basically affects every aspect of your well-being. It affects the type of hospital that you go to when you're sick. What type of medication are you going to get in your hospital? It's all politics. You can never separate your life from politics. And what I'm saying here, I want to encourage each and every Zimbabwean to start playing an active role this election to ensure that, number one, they know the candidate that they are voting for. Number two, if there is a person who is seeking re-election, what has that candidate done in the past 5 years in your constituency, in your ward, or if it's a presidential candidate, is he able to deliver the change that you aspire or the change that you want to see in this country? In Harare Central in particular, the constituency that I'm running in, I've been doing door-to-door campaigns. I've been speaking to different people. I've spoken to people in the Avenues area. I've spoken to people in Islay. I've spoken to people in Acadia, and I've spoken to people in Hillside. And I'm still yet to reach the other corners of Harare Central, which includes Queensdale, Braeside, St. Martin's, and part of Milton Park, which is part of the constituency. And I must say, I was very disappointed at the level of political ignorance. One thing that I hear time and time again when I go down on the ground is when I voted in 2013 or 2008 or 2005, I just voted for a political party. This is what I get on the ground. Oh, okay, fine. You voted for a political party. Understandable. You want to change. Maybe you voted for ZANU-PF. Maybe you voted for MDC. But do you know the candidate you voted for? That is the critical question. Why do we still have hospitals with no medication? Our legislators actually doing the right thing in the House of Assembly? I don't think they are. Because in January, there was an article in our newspapers, in Newsday, the Independent, that there are more than 100 legislators that have not even said a single word since 2018. We are now going into the run-up for elections in 2018. 5 years down the line, the Constitution has not been, and the laws of this land have not been aligned to the Constitution, and these have been 5 wasted years. And are we asking our legislators what have they been doing in Parliament? Have you asked yourself what is it exactly that you voted for when you voted in 2013? It's one thing going to vote and another thing to demand accountability. And if we are serious that we are tired of poverty, we are tired of joblessness, we are tired of perennial water shortages, we are tired of poor service delivery, we are tired of poor healthcare, and we're just tired of the state of the affairs of this country. The social fabric is broken, families are broken, everything is just broken in this country. But when we say we want to rebuild Zimbabwe, where are we starting from? We need collective responsibility. We need to plug in together the businessman, the church, the ordinary citizen, the politician, the activists to work together to bring forth the change that we want. The change that we want will start firstly when every citizen in Zimbabwe starts demanding accountability. And I am one such leader. I have said it before. I want people who ask me questions. What is it have you done? What is it that you want to do? And even if I win the Harare Central 6 this year in the elections, I want my number will be open for everyone. I want people to come to me and ask me that you promised A, B, C, D, and E. Have you accomplished that? We need to get to that type of politics for us to be able to bring forth change in Zimbabwe. But so long we continue with the Sheffiism that brought this country down, we will never deliver Zimbabwe from the tragedy of political incorrectness. At this juncture, we cannot even answer what political correctness is, because we still have to highlight the negatives that have been happening in our political space. We still have to highlight the electoral problems that we have. We still have a lot of issues to do with electoral reforms. I have raised this question plenty of times. Why are Zimbabweans silent about the issue of electoral reforms? When you just put your livelihood into the fate of politicians, you are actually doing a great injustice to yourself. Electoral reforms are not for political parties, are not for candidates running for office. They are for every Zimbabwean, to benefit every Zimbabwean. We are always crying, we are always lamenting that we have got a lot of inequality in this country. It is very difficult for one to get a piece of land without a ZANU-PF card. You cannot get a mining claim without a ZANU-PF card. But Zimbabwe belongs to every Zimbabwean, not just to a ZANU-PF member. And what have they been doing about it? Zimbabwe is now highly informalized, and we all have gotten to a stage where we just think about today, where we are just selfish, where you think that's it. We have to think beyond that. We have to think about the future of our children. If you are hustling today because there are no jobs and you are taking your child to school every day, you're paying for university, and after she has finished university, she's going to join you in selling barrels, that's not sustainable. But we are saying we've got the opportunity this year to ensure that we change these things. But how do we change these things? We have to change them by actively participating in the call for electoral reforms, demanding electoral reforms. Imagine if every Zimbabwean was tweeting, Facebooking, WhatsApping about electoral reforms, attending demonstrations and protests about electoral reforms. Camping outside the parliament building, demanding electoral reforms. I think by now those electoral reforms will be there. We have to critically analyze our politics. We have to critically analyze our opposition. Is it sincere? Are they really sincere about electoral reforms? Just a day or two ago, legislators walked out of parliament when the issue of electoral reforms was about to be raised. Who is going to ensure that we get these electoral reforms? ZANU-PF did not do a coup. To be specific, Chiwenga and Mnangagwa did not sacrifice their lives having that coup just to let go of power in 6 months' time. Those are the harsh realities, the brutal facts. But what are we doing as Zimbabwean citizens? I want to talk about political parties today. I want to talk about the politically incorrect Zimbabwe, which includes you and me. Until we define what political correctness is, then we will start talking of political correctness. But as I sit here, as I'm talking to you, my belief and what I understand is right now, almost each and every Zimbabwean is politically incorrect. When you still think that election time is time to siphon money from donors so that you can run your campaigns, you are still politically incorrect. When you think that when election time comes, it's time to get t-shirts, freebies, free beer, and all that, you are still politically incorrect. Election time is time to ensure that you do a thorough research on the people you want to vote for. Are they going to bring forth the change that we want in Zimbabwe? And when we're talking of change, we're not talking of just having money in the banks or opening Zimbabwe for business like what Mnangagwa is saying day in and day out. When we're talking of change, we are talking of sustainable human development. We have to be clear about that. Zimbabweans have suffered for a very long time. 38 years is not a joke. I know of a lot of people my age, I turned 36 this year, who have never had a job in their lifetime. We have never held a pay slip in their lifetime. We have never even had an opportunity to get capital to start a business just because they belong to the wrong party. But I am saying Zimbabwe is not for ZANU-PF card-carrying members only. Zimbabwe is for every Zimbabwean citizen born of a Zimbabwean mother and father, and everyone has got a right to equal opportunities in this country. Zimbabwe is endowed with vast natural resources, mines. We've got the best climate under the sun. We could be running the biggest solar plants in Africa or in the world right now. But we've got the Wigno Chivayos getting corrupt tenders, squandering money, and we just have a very few Zimbabweans demanding accountability. Why is Wigno Chivayo still outside prison? What did he do with the money? We've got planes that were bought clandestinely with taxpayers' funds, and the taxpayers don't even demand to know what happened. That is the level of political incorrectness that I'm talking about. The level of political ignorance, just relegating things to politicians at the expense of our own livelihoods. We need to change our mindsets collectively. We need to change our approach to the way we view our country. We need to start loving Zimbabwe and start working towards a sustainable Zimbabwe where everyone benefits from our natural resources. And as you vote and make your decisions on who to vote for this year, ask yourself if the person you're going to vote for is able to deliver the change that you aspire. Ask yourself if the person you're voting for knows what your community needs. If we fail to do that, we will keep on crying the same song. And Zimbabwe is going to plunge further into poverty, into economic quagmire, because right now the coup plotters are actually amassing more wealth. It's there in the press. I cannot reiterate what's happening. Mary Chiwenga taking the other farm, people just looting from NASA and everything in the name of events and all that. That is the real situation on the ground. But now we are saying, what is it that we want in Zimbabwe? What is our shared common vision? I can tell you what I want as Linda. I want a just Zimbabwe. I want a Zimbabwe where everyone can dream and actually live their dream. I want a Zimbabwe where we all have equal opportunities, where we've got equity, where everyone can run a business if they want to, where anyone can wake up in the morning and go and look for a job. I want a Zimbabwe that has got a curriculum which resonates with the economic climate in this country. I want a Zimbabwe where we enjoy solidarity, where we enjoy diversity in our different opinions. But we are so traumatized to the stage that we critique everything, whether positive or negative. We are so quick to insult each other. We cannot even critique ideas or add on to ideas. That has to change. ZANU-PF traumatized us. They used us. They manipulated us over the past 38 years. But how long are we going to allow ZANU-PF to keep manipulating us? ZANU-PF is our biggest problem. All the problems we are facing in Zimbabwe are political. And so long we have not dealt with the political, we are never going to revive our economy, we are not going to resuscitate our economy, there are not going to be jobs, we are not going to get cash in the streets, we are not even going to get proper hospitals. And this is the only year, 2018, that we have to change that. That we have to change our political incorrectness. That we have to change our attitude and be more driven to things that will grow Zimbabwe. But how do we grow Zimbabwe? We need to pull together. We need cohesion. I'll start with the presidency, the presidential candidate. I don't see anything sensible coming out of 117 political parties in Zimbabwe if we are sincere that we want to remove ZANU-PF from power. We have to swallow our pride. Not everyone can be a president. People have to swallow their pride, and let's have at least 3 or 4 political parties running for president. I think for me that makes sense. Because we're going to continue dividing votes. And when the votes are divided, ZANU-PF wins and the people lose. We have had a leadership crisis for 37 years. And I think we have to get to a stage where we have to swallow our pride and say who is the best presidential candidate to run with. And when we get to that stage where we are defining the best presidential candidate who we want to run with, then we can be certain and we can start preaching victory over ZANU-PF. But if we continue to be pawns in this game, we are going to die suffering. A lot of people in Zimbabwe can't even drive a car, have never driven a car. And those who have cars actually think they have made it in life. A second-hand Japanese car. And it's pathetic. Most of us are surviving on second-hand clothes because you cannot even afford to walk into a proper store and buy yourself a nice brand new outfit. A lot of people can't even afford at least 3 meals a day. And the one meal that they are eating is not even nutritious. A lot of people are failing to get their children to school. We have to realize that Harare is not Zimbabwe. When you see the streets of Harare filled with cars, the bars filled with people enjoying themselves, Pizza Inn filled on Tuesday with people eating pizza, that does not reflect what the majority of Zimbabweans are facing. And I think it's also time that we stop being selfish, that we think of our grannies, our aunts, our uncles, our sisters, our brothers in the rural areas who don't have any opportunity at all, who 38 years after independence are still using black toilets, still lighting candles, have got no proper water source, and all they get after every 5 years are t-shirts, kettles, and are coerced to vote, raped, maimed, and forced to vote for ZANU-PF. How have we been reaching out to those people? How have we been conscientizing them to vote for change? To vote for a better Zimbabwe? We still have a lot of children in the rural areas who are still walking 10 kilometers to go to school, 38 years after elections. And in a couple of days, people will be celebrating independence. What independence? Which independence? Who is truly independent in Zimbabwe? except the corrupt and uncouth people, or those who are involved in corrupt and shady deals. And as I'm speaking right now, some people are actually saying, Linda, I'm not paying her, she's mad. Some people don't even want the situation to change because they're benefiting from it. But I'm saying, if you're a suffering Zimbabwean like me, who struggles to pay rent, who struggles to send the children to school, who struggles to have a decent meal, it's time to change your mindset and vote for change. And that is the change that we need. And I am telling you, my fellow Zimbabweans, that if we change our mindsets and pull together and vote for one presidential candidate, we will dismantle ZANU-PF. And that is what is critically important. I will not mince my words when it comes to dismantling ZANU-PF. We do not need a military junta in Zimbabwe. Do you even know the effect of a military running the state of affairs? Yes, they've been running their affairs clandestinely for the past 38 years, and in November they decided to take all the power into their hands. Right now they're just pretending to be nicey, to be letting us say what we want to say because they're trying to gain legitimacy. Mark my words, if we do not step up, change things and ensure that we vote these people out of power, if we do not demand electoral reforms and let the military run the elections this year, we are doomed. A leopard never changes the color of its spots. After 2018 elections, if ZANU-PF wins, we are doomed. Mark my words. They will ensure that they will make us suffer more than the way we are suffering right now. And we will be the losers. For me, it doesn't make sense that in 2000, opposition cried that it was rigged. 2005, it was the same thing, we've been rigged. 2008, we've been rigged. 2013, we've been rigged. And now we're about to go on to elections and we are not putting in sufficient pressure collectively as Zimbabweans to ensure that we're not rigged in 2018 elections. What is our position? How are we going to secure our vote? Personally, I can't imagine another 5 years of ZANU-PF. I can't. And I will not allow it. That is my position. That is why I called this episode politically incorrect. And it shall be running every Sunday until we get to elections. If we are sincere that ZANU-PF, my comrades, let's organize. Let's organize ourselves. In 1963, young men who were fed up of white imperialism organized themselves. They were smarter than us. They had degrees from UK. They were their careers, the Mugabes, the Nkomos was at NRZ. I think they were doing well. But they realized that they had no power. They realized that they were facing so much inequality. They wanted freedom. They set aside their differences and said, we are going to take up arms and fight these white people and remove them from power. There are 3 things that they fought for: freedom, equality, majority rule, and they wanted their land back. Some walked to Chimoyo, some dropped out of school. They knew what they wanted. Last year in December, I saw millions marching in the streets. They wanted Mugabe gone. But unfortunately, it wasn't our agenda. It wasn't the people's agenda. It was the military's agenda. We were used. Nothing has changed. No one's life has improved. And we're still at the same place. If we could organize ourselves to support the military, why can't we organize ourselves to remove the same military out of power? There is nothing for us, my fellow Zimbabweans, with these people. I will say this now without fear. I will say it tomorrow, I will say it the day after tomorrow, that if we do not organize ourselves to remove the military junta, which came through a coup, which is illegitimate in the 2018 elections, we are doomed. I want to speak to the real things that are affecting us in Zimbabwe. And those are the real things. We are being fooled. Mnangagwa is window dressing, saying all the things that you want to hear, so that you think that something is happening. Investors are coming. And when those investors come, who are they benefiting? I want one person who can say, ever since Mnangagwa took over power, my life has changed. I got a job. I bought a house. I'm not working. What we forget is Mnangagwa was Mugabe's right-hand man for a very long time. He was actually the chief architect of all the problems that we're facing right now as a nation. And how can we trust him to correct what he and the cabal that is now running this country did to this country? I don't want to say a lot of things, but we also have to understand that E.D. Mnangagwa and his cabal are making a lot of dialogues with the different opposition political parties to make sure that they will try and have a GNU rather than elections in 2018. There is a lot of stake, and there is a lot that is happening behind closed doors. But let us not be fooled as a citizenry. Let us not support that which will not benefit us as a people. We had a GNU in 2018, and those who were in the GNU benefited. They bought houses, bought cars, got farms. And every average Zimbabwean, nothing changed for them. The people have the right to demand accountability, to decide the quality of lifestyle that they want. Kana kwamogara uri munhu ungoti chero zvazvaita uchararama life yekubheru, a second class life, and you will live like a second class citizen in your own country. But we are saying this has to change. It has to change this year. And Zimbabweans have to ensure that they change that this year. What is it that we want? I'll keep on asking this question because this is a question that I want you to ask yourself even when you're going to sleep. Because if, John, what is it that you want? Peter, Getty, Tendai, what is it that you want? Can we set aside our differences as the younger generation? The generation with no jobs? The generation that is futureless? The generation that spends time smuggling second-hand bales of clothing, underwear, bras and pantyhose into Zimbabwe? And you call that a life? What you want to speak of Pablos, finu. Yet you've got no pension. You've got no social security. When you die right now, your child, if you're the enterprising one who bought maybe a house or two, maybe your relatives will sell that house and your child has got no livelihood. When I had my first job in the early 2000s, I remember in 2002 I had a life assurance with Old Mutual. That's how good Zimbabwe was at one stage. But right now, how many Zimbabweans even have a life insurance that can take care of their children when they're gone? How many Zimbabweans have got medical cover? How many Zimbabweans can afford to go into a private hospital and get treated? We can't even start talking of a public hospital. When you get sick right now, you will die because there's no medication, no machinery, no equipment. Nurses are going on strike tomorrow. Do you even understand the importance of voting? I want you to move from a stage of being politically incorrect to being politically correct to determine your future and the quality of your livelihood. Namo is a curse. Yes, many Zimbabweans have known no other life than the life of hustling, but that's not a life. We need sustainability. We need a sustainable livelihood. We need to leave a legacy for our children. But how do we leave a legacy for our children when we are all standing at street corners selling airtime? And most of these people will tell you when you ask them, have you registered to vote? There are a number of combis that have refused to vote because the window now register to vote. How do you get to a stage of being content of swear or sheds out 50 cents every day? How do you get content with the life of sort of a pavement which you take a summer banana, you own a degree? How do you even get to a stage of getting content of sort of a bridge, Mugeto, about who register to vote to solve the problem? Are we politically correct or are we politically incorrect? A lot of people have asked why they don't register to vote. They say, you go vote out to Munana, it's a Prado, cannot nominate a Ford Ranger. That is what we want to change. Vote for a person you know who's showing sincerity that they want to solve your crisis, that they want to change your situation. But if you're just going to be going to the ballot and look for the sign or the logo of the political party that you want to vote for, and you do not even know the candidate that you're voting for, and you're not even going to demand accountability from that person, then that will be our fate. Our fate and our tragedy is we have refused to face the brutal truths affecting our livelihoods. And one of those brutal facts is our ignorance. Kusada kuparticipate, kuzviti nandite izvi. Ukasazvita zvitwe nani. If you do not change your situation, who's going to change it for you? Who is going to change your situation for you? For me, I have said, andidi kuti mwana wandakabereka inini ararame life yandikurarama. I don't want my child to suffer. I don't want my child to finish school, finish university, and be jobless. The struggles that I'm fighting for today, I'm fighting for my children. I have sacrificed life's luxuries and the goodness of life to ensure that we restore Zimbabwe back to its former pride. I'm doing this for posterity. I'm doing this for my children. And I am not funded by anyone to raise critical and pertinent issues affecting us as a nation. I'm fed up of poverty. I'm fed up of everything in this country. I cannot go and sleep in a bank queue to withdraw $20. Why have we gotten to a stage of just accepting everything? Some people have got millions, charter planes for 2.3 million. They enjoy life in the best hotels across the globe. And you say, ideas, my vote is better. How is it better? How is it better than Mugabe? What is it that is doing differently from Mugabe? Ukaona usina shangu. Uchiri kutengerwa shangu na baba wako na mai wako. Uchiti ideas, my vote. Mugabe kedo. There is something politically incorrect with you. If you're 25 years old and above, and you did not register to vote, and you are still staying with your father and mother, there is something very wrong with you. About our political incorrectness. You can never separate your life from politics. Because at 25, it's political incorrectness, political ignorance, and political immaturity. Because if you understand the basics that I'm saying here, that if you're failing to take care of yourself, jobless and hopeless right now, you have to go and register to vote if you have not registered to vote, and you have to make sure that you vote for change. No one is going to change that situation for you. We have had less than 3.5 million people voting in the past elections, which means we have also had about 7 million people who have not been voting in Zimbabwe, but who are the ones also like, hey, you say fame. That is a defeatist statement. And we have to change that today. Chikuru fame. Chikuru vote. chikuru kubvisa ZANU-PF from power totanga zvitsva zvatinenge tichilidza isusu vanhu tichidetermine. Let us also Chamisa, you want us to vote for you, how are you going to change our livelihood? Let's ask Elton Mangoma, Joyce, whoever wants to be a president, and let's vote for the right candidate. Candidate irikuudza ikuti tichashandura upenyu, tichashanda tese. Hatichada vanotonga muZimbabwe. We don't want rulers. We now need leaders who can engage with business people, who can engage with the citizenry, who can engage with the students, who can turn around Zimbabwe to be the best, to be what we want it to be. It's not even a mammoth task, but it needs us to use our mind and to change our mindsets, to start preaching the right language. But so now, and that is not what we need as a nation. We need to politically correct ourselves. If we decide to stay politically incorrect, we will die politically incorrect. Our children will continue being politically incorrect. But the buck has to stop somewhere. It has to stop this year. We have suffered enough. We have nothing to lose. We have to rise up in our numbers and demand electoral reforms. We have to go out in our numbers and go and register to vote. And those who register to vote should make sure that they go and vote during election time. I know there are going to be a lot of frustrations. People are going to be harassed. A lot of things are going to happen. But let's fight for our economic freedoms, for our academic freedoms, and our political freedoms. Zimbabwe was a nice place when I was growing up. I really have to talk about this. I grew up in Greencroft. The street life, SI back. Marara aipikwa up. Kuchikoro taipiwa mkaka pa Breaktown. Books with the hardcover, which was written Ministry of Education. Our teachers were there on time. A class at a maximum of 25 children. You know, life was good. Life was good. Everyone could afford to buy a grocery. I remember when my mother got paid, Miko's Hotel. How many people right now? My mother was a teacher then, but she could take me to Miko's Hotel for lunch on a payday. How many teachers in 2018 can take their children for lunch at Miko's Hotel? How many Zimbabweans can afford just to go on holiday per Vic Folsa? We have a lot to fight for, my comrades. We have a lot to fight for. Bread and butter issues. Proper education. And we're the only ones who can change it. We have to change our attitude to politics. If we do not change it, we'll continue to suffer. And that is what we need to do. We need to start speaking the right language right now, which is the language of voting. That is the only thing that is going to turn around the fortunes of this country. We need to start going to the Ministry of Lands, the Ministry of Women Affairs, demanding land. We all have to benefit from our natural resources. Let's go to RBZ Matimai, tinopiwa maloni warunza kupiwa vanhu. Ngapiwe mudzimai wese wemuno muZimbabwe. Let's go to the Ministry of Mines and apply for those mining claims. Let's refuse to be treated as mediocre in our own country, my comrades. Let's refuse to just stand in town doing nothing or lying in parks. Above all, be moved to change your own personal circumstance. Stop being helpless and giving up. We have a chance to recreate and rebuild Zimbabwe. But we can only do it when we change our political mindset, when we raise the levels of political consciousness. Do you know your rights? Have you read the Constitution of Zimbabwe? Do you know how your rights are being violated? What are you doing to ensure that your rights are not being violated? The masses are the majority. They are the ones who are supposed to be ruling this land, not the politicians. But when you just give up on your life and leave your fate in the hands of politicians, you will continue to suffer. When you go and stand in a queue this year to vote, make sure that you're making the right decision. Majet, Madiri are not sustainable. We need a better Zimbabwe. And that Zimbabwe can only be created by you and me. We have felt the pain. We have gone to hospitals with no medication. We have had relatives dying because they cannot afford cancer treatment. We've got children who are abusing drugs and substances because they feel there's no hope in this country. There is hope only if we set aside our egos, if we start thinking about the future and working collectively in redefining the Zimbabwe that we want. We are the only ones who can define the Zimbabwe that we want and work towards it. A revolution has never been won by the haves. It has always been the have-nots. And if the have-nots of this land decide to politically correct themselves, we will emancipate ourselves from oppression, from mental slavery of just chanting slogans and ululating for nothing. We now want to rebuild Zimbabwe. And it's not only Chamisa's job. It's not Noah Manyika's job. It's not Joyce Mujuru's job. Whoever is running for political office. It is our mandate as the generation that is suffering to ensure that we work hand in glove with those who are speaking our language. What I'm basically saying is, we have to start defining the Zimbabwe that we want. This whole week, let's be defining the Zimbabwe that we want. Our shared common vision as young people. And start making demands to the presidential aspirants. And the one who will show that is willing to work towards the Zimbabwe that we have defined and the Zimbabwe that we want is the one that we will vote for. As a generation of loafers. That is what we are. But we can change that and become the generation of businessmen, a generation of creative people, innovative people who rebuild their country together. And sometimes it has to take sacrifices. Go and read what Thomas Sankara did. People sacrificed and were working for free, to rebuild their country then. And I think Zimbabwe needs to get there. Where we're going to say at some stage, yes, fine, we don't have money in our country, but I'm willing to offer my labor for free to ensure that this country wakes up. Where nurses who are not working are going to volunteer and go and work in hospitals to ensure that everyone is getting adequate health care. I want a Zimbabwe where donated medication is not taken by the ministers or those who are in power and selling them in their private hospitals. I want a Zimbabwe where donations for books, for education is actually utilized in the schools and not for workshops. A new curriculum was introduced. And do you know that there are still no books in schools for the new curriculum? Have you asked yourself what our children are learning? And these are critical questions. And every time you're paying school fees and your children are going to school where the books are not even sufficient or they printed very few books and other people don't even have the books. Have you ever thought about what you're doing to your child? Those are pertinent issues that we're supposed to be speaking to. And sometimes when we raise these issues and call, no parents, let's go to the Ministry of Education, I'm weak. Towards rebuilding our country. But if every time we raise pertinent issues, what is the right as enshrined in the Constitution, Section 77? They are seeking relevance. Seeking relevance where? They are seeking relevance. I'm not seeking relevance. I want a better Zimbabwe for every Zimbabwean. I want every Zimbabwean to have quality water coming out of their taps. I want every Zimbabwean to have a decent salary. I want every Zimbabwean to have a decent workspace. I want every Zimbabwean who wants to run a company, live a comfortable life. That is what I want. That is what I want as Linda Masarira. And I just want Zimbabweans to be politically correct. I want Kenyans demand justice. Demand democracy. Democracy is the will of the people. And the will of the people will prevail when the people are speaking with one voice and in unison. We need to change our mindsets. It's not about me. Now I sacrifice my life. I don't even want all the luxuries that all of you people have. But I want to leave a legacy for the next generation. Which is what we fail to do as Africans. Britain, ask those who are in the diaspora. Because his great-grandparents made sure that great-grandchild will live a comfortable life. But as I'm seated here, I don't even know what my grandchild will be eating. It's so pathetic. What will say? So in conclusion, my fellow comrades, let's change our mindset. Let's understand the political dynamics of Zimbabwe. Let's make the right decision. If you have not registered to vote this week, please can you go and register to vote. Instead of spending time looking for jokes and doing satire and all that, can you be Googling your political party candidates this year, your presidential candidates, knowing what they have achieved, what they do, what their aspirations are, what are their passions, what do they want to deliver? That is critically important if we really want to change the course of politics in Zimbabwe. And like I said earlier, we can never be able to change the economic climate if we haven't changed the political. We can't change our social space when we haven't changed the political. What is critically important is for the masses in Zimbabwe to demand social justice, labor justice, economic justice, and academic freedoms. That is what we need as a nation. Every Zimbabwean deserves to live comfortably in Zimbabwe. Zimbabwe is not just for a few elite cabals who live in Chishawasha Hills or whatever. Zimbabwe is for every Zimbabwean. In Maripati, in Ulilemangwe, in Mondoro, and everywhere else. Every Zimbabwean has got a right to live a comfortable life. And let's plug in. We're very educated people, intelligent. Let's use what we learned at varsity in our doctorates and masters to develop our country. Sometimes we just have to humble ourselves and start doing voluntary work and start converging at a level of ideas on how we can rebuild our country, which is what is critically important. We have said a whole lot of other things about how we got here and how we are still so politically incorrect, and how we have to change and raise our political consciousness. And starting this week as well, on Thursday, I'm going to start a Constitutional Thursday, where every Thursday I'm just going to be dealing with constitutional matters. I'm also going to be going down in my constituency, distributing copies of the manifesto, making sure that people know their rights, and we'll be having a tweet debate at 1500 hours to 1700 hours. We'll be talking about our rights. Do you know your rights? What are your rights? And what is it that is being violated by the current system? And we also have to think beyond removing ZANU-PF from power. We also have to think of having a system overhaul. What kind of system do we have in Zimbabwe? And those who are gifted in policy making and to writing white papers on the type of system that can bring forth a functional Zimbabwe. Let's have that going on. Let's plug in with ideas. What is it that we need to change at the executive level in Zimbabwe, in the administration of public office, administration of council office? That is what is critically important. And as you go to vote this year, make sure you vote for the right candidate. Think independently. Don't think as a WhatsApp group or funga sema group. Funga ne brain zako. Hapana chakaipa kuvotera president we MDC anzanichi MP we NPP kana ari yakutaura zvimusoro kana kuti nakanzi nawe MDC. Vote for a candidate. Don't vote for a party. Thank you very much.